Hello. Okay.
Hi.
It's never get less weird, no matter how many times we do this. So, welcome to our honor podcast. I am Thao, and
I'm Thuỷ.
and today we are gonna talk about our experience doing a research internship. How are you feeling? I know this is your first time doing a podcast, Thuỷ.
I don't know. I'm a bit shy and it's kind of awkward, but I hope this will work out well. What about you?
I'm kind of tired. Like it's summer holiday. I just want to hang out with my friend at this point. But I'm also excited to talk about my internship. I would just want to talk about how cool my supervisor and like how his whole research is.
Okay.
You don't sound so excited to me.
Just feel like I'm done with it for now.
Yes.
But why don't you introduce yourself and your internship?
Oh, it's me first?
Yeah.
My name is, like I say, Thao. I'm a second year, just finished my second year on the International Bachelor Psychology program. Such a long name. I'm always get confused. For my research, I did a research on healthcare migration of skilled health worker in Nigeria and the government system surrounding it. And it's also a qualitative research. It involves a lot of coding of interview. It uses a thematic analysis. And yeah, I'm very excited to talk about it because from my background of quantitative research, this internship is like such an eye-opening and like almost world-shattering experience for me. But what about you, Thuỷ? Tell me about yourself and your internship.
Okay. First of all, your internship sounds really cool. I think mine is not as cool, but my internship is about daily lives of psychiatric patients, and I basically did a small version of a meta-analysis where I look for articles that include patients and healthy people to see what's the difference between different life aspects like education or employment, so that we can see that how psychiatric disorders kind of influence us in a different aspect of our lives.
What do you mean? That sounds so cool. What? You should be more proud about it. It's very cool.
Thank you.
But before we get into all of this, we feel like you should get to know us a bit better first. Thuỷ and I have prepared some questions, and hopefully through our answer, you can kind of get to know us a bit better. So, first one, you go, Thuỷ.
Okay, disclaimer, these questions are about research.
Got to stay on topic somehow.
Okay, but my question is, what makes an ideal internship for you?
The two most important points is that I want my internship to be paid, preferably. Because
That's a valid one.
yeah, it's very valid. I think a lot of people share this sentiment. Like, I worked hard, so I feel like I should get something in return. And the second one is that it's something I can learn from, something that would help me grow, not just academically, but also as a human being, you know? That's why I don't like limiting myself to just psychology. I try to find my research topic, like you see, just in a completely different field than what I'm used to. But I learned so much from it, and not just like, it's not that I just learn about researching. I learn about how to look at issue from a macro, meso, and micro level, and it's so fascinating. But enough about me. What about you, Thuỷ?
Well, I think an ideal internship for me should be that I can work on my interest topic, and that my supervisor should be understanding, great to work with. But also I would love if the environment of the lab is cooperative and not very competitive, or not work-life imbalance. I think it's really important to have a paid internship because I think unpaid internship is a good way to gain experience, but it doesn't pay the bill, and it's kind of create a lot of pressures on us as well.
Completely valid point. I agree with all of them. I really like that you mentioned how important it is to have a safe space when you are working, because at least for me, it's where I thrive, when I feel like I'm in a safe environment where I can freely explore and just learn. So good point.
Thank you.
The second question is, if you are able to pick any topic to do research on, what would you pick and why?
The topic that I want to work on is kind of like my dream topic, and also the one that I want to work on for my career. So I watched this TED Talk last year about, if you look at the brain scans and using different neuroimaging techniques, then you can see that with people with psychiatric disorders, for example schizophrenia, there is a threshold that they kind of went over years before they actually were diagnosed or actually manifest the disorders. And the speaker kind of mentioned that by using these data, you kind of pre-diagnose years before people actually get diagnosed that they're going to have a psychiatric disorders. And I think it's really interesting. I want to work on a project where I can look at biomarkers and create a tool where you can diagnose and help people with psychiatric disorders. Because if you diagnose the disorder early, then you can get help earlier and have less symptoms and less impact on your life. But what about you, Thao?
But just first to say, like, what I really admire about Thuỷ is that how prepared and how sure she is of what she wants to do. I know her for a long time now, and I can say for sure that this is the topic that she chosen, and she has committed to it through 2 years of our bachelor. She has never changed it, and I think that's so admirable and so different compared to mine, because I have so many different things going on and I just want to do so many different things at the same time. For me, like I say, I have so many topics that I'm interested in. It's really hard to pick one, but I want to focus my research on marginalized identity or in community, because from the way that I see, they are not properly researched. They are underrepresented, and also for a lot of their problem, the research are very simple. It cannot capture the complexity of the situation they are facing. That's why I want to focus on the vulnerable group, because I just want to help them, and it's also personal because I myself identify with that. I'm both a woman and I'm a person of color. It's not easy growing up, and it's not easy living in a world that is focused on a certain narrative. And when I look back on my past and I think about how hard I have to struggle just to get an education, to be recognized, to have my voice heard as a woman, and then later on as a person of color in a white space. I want to make things easier for the people who's gonna follow me. I feel like the first step to creating solution is to really understand the situation. And that's why I want to do research first, because I can tell a lot about my experience, but is my experience the only one? And then how, from the many experiences that I can hear about, how can I develop a solution that can help? But yeah, that's quite long. I hope I didn't ramble.
Yours is really nice. Like, one thing I like about you is that you're really critical, and I learned a lot from hanging out with you. What you want to do is really nice and very noble. I can guess that's the word. Yeah, but like it is so cool and it's really nice, and I can identify with that as well. But not many people can do things like that. I want to do things like that.
But really emotional, thank you. I like how this podcast is just us compliment each other. Very wholesome.
My ideal kind of podcast.
Yeah, of course. Validation. Moving on to the second part of the podcast, our actual internship. The part that we actually should talk about instead of just ourselves. Sorry guys, we take so long just to get here. So first we're gonna reintroduce our internship a bit, talk about what topic we did, the kind of study it was, and also what kind of tasks we have to do. Would you mind starting, Thuỷ?
I thought you said you're gonna start, but sure.
Sorry.
Okay, my internship was again about daily lives of psychiatric patients. I did small or like mini version of meta-analysis. One of the first things that I had to do was looking for articles, empirical articles that include both psychiatric patients and healthy people, and have information about different life aspects or life outcomes of them. So marriage status or education or employment, these things, to see how these disorders can affect the patients. And then I had to compile the research or my own research, wrote an article or like a small report on it, and I did multiple presentations during the internship, which I think was very horrible. It was a learning experience after all.
Yeah, I agree. Presentation is very uncomfy for me as well, but like you say, I hope it was a learning experience for you. And I see that you did a lot during your internship. Then what is the most important thing that you learned from it?
I learned a few things. First is that you are the expert of your own research. No matter like how inexperienced you are, but you are the expert. No one knows the topic better than you, so there's nothing to be shy or to feel bad about. It's better to be confident and just present it, and then get question feedbacks as something that you can improve. And the second thing I learned is how to do academic presentation. The lab that I was in, everyone was at least a PhD candidate or a postdoc or a research scientist, and I was the only one who was still doing my bachelor. My topic was really easy and very simple compared to them, and when I first presented, I got a lot of questions, and the questions were really nice, but they were really difficult for me, and it got me really, it was a little bit traumatic for me. But it taught me to prepare and to read my materials well. So that's something. Yeah, and one last thing is that I learned that I don't know how to word this, but before I always thought that, if you are very experienced, if you have done research a long time ago, then you would not be patient when it comes to a student like me. But actually my supervisors and people who were in my lab was really nice, and they were very patient with me. And my supervisor even sat down with me and explained his article or his research and answer my questions in a very simple terms. So I very appreciate how they had and give me a space to learn.
I agree, like supervisor, at least for me, and I guess for you as well, are so important during our learning process. I'm also so surprised when both of my supervisors are so kind and so patient with me, and they put up with all of my inexperience.
So why don't you talk a little bit more about your research?
The full name of my research, my supervisor research, I'm talking like I wrote the research, but it was developing a sustainable global health workforce, solution and challenges. Me and my supervisor specifically talk about the healthcare migration system for skilled health workers in Nigeria. I know it's very niche, it's very specific, and we did a qualitative research, and going into this I was completely blind. I did not have any previous knowledge on qualitative. My job, of course, first is to actually learn about qualitative research, and it's a completely different working than quantitative. And then I have to read all of the theory behind my supervisor work and try to find weakness or justify it. And then I have to encode interview, like actual interview from healthcare worker in Nigeria to see the pattern and to see the theme of what they are saying. And then for my last part, I have to write my own study proposal for research that I want to do in the future.
That is a lot.
I was thinking like just saying that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot. It's a lot of studying, a lot of new knowledge for me. But I'm so grateful for it because I feel like I learned so much from it. I think one of the biggest things that I learned, approach a research topic, how to look at it in a very complex and also humane way. And I learned that from my supervisor. Honestly, I'm so grateful for him because I feel like he didn't just teach me hard skill, like knowledge on qualitative research. I could have learned it myself. I could have self-taught myself that. But he also teach me a lot about the attitude, how to approach a subject, and just overall the way that he supervised me is just so kind and so empathic. And I think that translates to how he does his research too. The way that he does research is so kind, and he's willing to challenge many ideas and willing to take on the nuances to truly see the complexity of the situation, and he doesn't just try to symbolize it. That's one thing he's constantly remind me of. Do not try to generalize everything, and I think that's very valuable because for me, for someone who comes from a qualitative background, that's the main goal, right? Like just to find a generalizable finding. And when you're talking about topic like migration, when you are talking about people actually life experience here, sometimes it's just not generalizable, and that's okay. Maybe that shouldn't be the goal in the first place. It's inspired me a lot to tackle topic from a qualitative perspective, to really try to grasp the nuances of it. He truly showed me how beautiful quantitative research is. It's kind of funny when I first met him. He keeps talking about you have to be slow to really understand how beautiful, like what he used was beautiful, and I was like, that's a very odd choice of word to describe researching. But after working with him, I understand, like it is beautiful. It's so beautiful, the work that he's doing, and just how kind, how understanding, and you can really tell that he's working to help his community. His passion is there. He really wants to help the people there, and it's so inspiring.
That's so nice. Like, I don't know the way that you talk about your research and your supervisor.
Next question.
What insecurity did you face during the internship?
For me, I'm just not sure if I'm doing a good job or not, like a good enough job or not. Because first of all, it's a topic that I don't understand that well. Like, I study psychology and his research is focused a lot on policy making and also healthcare and migration. And then I also don't know the design. I didn't understand qualitative at that point. And I feel like he is entrusting me with so much responsibility that I'm not sure if I can do it well. And I'm also very critical of myself. I'm a perfectionist. During that time, I'm also facing a lot of personal challenges. I have the tendency when I get a bit sad, I get a bit depressed, I'm becoming even more critical of myself and my work, and it's become like this echo chamber of insecurity, and it was horrible. I just feel so bad about myself the entire time. Like, I'm just not doing a good enough job. I could have done this so much better, and I feel very guilty about it. And that's why I'm so grateful for my supervisor again, because he's so understanding and he's always remind me not to be so harsh on myself, and he's also give me a lot of encouragement and support. Honestly, it's one of the highlights of my week during that time to hear his feedback. What about you?
I think I also had the same problem. And do you know what it's called?
Imposter syndrome?
Yeah, imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most of the time I felt like I wasn't competent enough. I didn't know a lot, and I felt like maybe this is wrong, and maybe I'm not good enough for this internship, and maybe I should have chosen something easier. And I think especially with the presentations, I had to do 4 presentations in 6 months. The presentation I had to prepare a lot because I was afraid that people were going to ask me really difficult questions, like my first presentation. In the end, like I said at the beginning, that you are the expert of your own topic, your own research. So even if you are an imposter, no one knows that. So you gotta fake it until you make it.
Yes. Very questionable advice, but just kidding. I think that's very true. The imposter syndrome, especially in academia, is very real. I don't know enough about your internship, but based on how I know you as a human being and also as a student, I think you did a great job.
Oh, thank you. You did a great job as well. You were doing so much at the time.
Yeah. Don't overwork yourself, people. Yes. If you get anything out of this silly little podcast, just don't overwork yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. It's already, I don't know how it's gonna be at the end after editing, but we have been talking for 40 minutes already. So let's try to wrap it up. How do you feel about researching after the internship?
Okay, this is a difficult question for me. I really don't know. I feel like because of the pandemic, my internship was online, and I feel like I wasn't exposed enough to research. I didn't get a chance to go to the lab and do a lot of things. So I feel like there's still a lot of things that I should do before I can say that I like or don't like research. But there's one thing that I got out of my whole experience is that research is really, really exclusive. Because before, when I was looking for a supervisor to do my internship, I emailed 20 people per day, and then I think I emailed for a lot of people, 60 people maybe, and most of them don't reply. And even with the research at our university is really exclusive, and I'm really grateful for the people that reply and gave me advices. My supervisor, who were willing enough to take me in and teach me a lot. But the truth is, research is really exclusive, especially with people like us who are first generation university student and women of color or people of color. That is still really hard to learn things like writing emails or reaching out to people, introducing ourselves, and try to networking and try to get into research. What about you?
I agree, I don't understand it enough, but I feel like research is really exclusive, like you say. We are capable, we are fast learner, we are critical, but oddly enough, it feels like a hidden knowledge almost, to be able to find an internship and to do even an unpaid research internship.
Yes.
So it's really odd. I don't understand why it is that way, and especially because we live in the Netherlands, I understand that if we cannot speak Dutch, it's gonna be a problem. At the same time, I feel like a lot of research is about inclusiveness, but from the beginning, they have a requirement that you have to speak Dutch. So I don't see how that is inclusive, because then you limit it to only a very specific group of people, and you are not getting as many perspectives as you can. Perspective from people like us, from a completely different background, and have a completely different living experience, completely cut out of it. And maybe if the goal of the research is to just focus on this very specific Dutch speaking population, then I understand, but it still feel a bit, I don't know if there is a English word for it, but in Vietnamese it's like trách lòng, like you are being left out almost.
Yeah, it does feel that way. The only thing I can conclude is that research is very exclusive, even though that they, like nowadays, people try to label their research and themselves as being inclusive and everything. But the truth is, academia and research is really exclusive.
For me, after this experience, I don't want to do research, at least not full-time of researcher. It's just, I feel like in research you have to be very critical of yourself, and right now I can confidently say that I'm not in a mental space that I can do that without actually hurting myself. Also, I would love to do research, but just part-time, it's because I feel like a lot of the time when you go fully academia, just bachelor, master, PhD researching, it's really easy to kind of see everything in a very weirdly scientific way, to simplify everything to just number or just this certain narrative, which is not necessarily bad. A lot of the time that's the whole point of quantitative, is to trying to quantify it, to quantify as many narratives as you can. I feel like after a while doing that, it's very easy to kind of lose touch with reality, because reality are not just number. It's not just this certain yes no questionnaire. It's a lot of the time it's so much more complex than that, and if you cannot grasp it, if you cannot even agree that there is a complexity there is so many nuances there, then I feel like your research is not gonna do anything. It's not gonna contribute anything academically or socially. For me, I want to have a more hand-on experience first, at least, before I can do researching. I have to really get what it's like to really write about it, to really actually do scientific research on it, so I don't lose my touch on humanitarian way of looking at things. But that's all for now, I guess. That's the end of our podcast. Do you have any final thing you want to say to the audience? Maybe wish them good luck or something?
Thank you for listening to the podcast. I don't know how long it's gonna be, but thank you for listening. Yeah, and good luck with your study or whatever you do in life.
Thank you everyone who stayed till the end. Thuỷ and I wish you the best of luck in whatever you are doing. And also remember to take care of yourself.